Hello everyone, welcome to Weaving with Diane. In this video I am going to show you how to quickly plan a project to get the necessary calculations to create a warp. The next video will then continue with the actual winding of the warp. I have decided to create a strip of fabric approximately 18 inches wide and 8 meters in length. This is so I can make a length of varied fabric to be used as accents on bags like this and for other sewing projects. I measure the width in inches because the majority of reeds are set in inches. For example, there are 8 dent, 10 dent, 12 dent or 15 dent per inch reeds, which means they have 8, 10, 12 or 15 slots per inch in the reed. Most of you would know that this is a reed. Now the dent is the slot between the pieces of metal coming through. To determine what reed you should use depends on the yarn for the project and the weave structure. This is where we need to determine the wraps per inch of the yarn. So this is a yarn gauge. This has a 1 inch gap and a 1/2 inch gap. To save time, I normally wrap around the 1/2 inch gap and then double it. For this project, I am using an H2 pearl cotton as my warp, and again to save time I count the wraps as I go because then I don't have to try and fiddle counting them again afterwards. You want to lay the thread alongside each other so you're not seeing any gaps between the threads, and then know how many there are in that space. So I have one, I have it pinned from behind with my thumb, and then I just lay the threads alongside. So I have 1, 2, 19, 20. That means that this thread has a wraps per inch of 40 threads per inch. Now we come to weave structure. Now that we have worked out the wraps per inch for the yarn, we can then use weave structure to work out what the set of the fabric is going to be, and therefore how many threads are going to be put through each dent of the reed. With this yarn, if you were doing a plain weave structure and you were making a balanced weave, you would take the wraps per inch and divide it by 2. So 40 threads per inch divided by 2 makes 20 threads per inch. So you would slay in a 10 dent reed such as this 2 threads per dent, in other words per slot. That is to create a balanced weave. I am wanting to create an unbalanced weave. So in this particular situation, I'm wanting the warp to be more obvious than the weft because it most likely will be a lot thicker. So I want to divide the wraps per inch by 4, which then is 40 divided by 4 is 10. So in this reed, I will be putting 1 thread in each dent. Okay, now we go to our weaving project sheet. Because we're doing a basic warp, we don't need to put all the details in, but we'll do what is needed just for a record of this particular project. So the weaving project, the article, length of fabric. Dimensions, the width we're saying is 18 inches, the length is 8 meters. The warp thread is 8 to cotton, weft thread various. Now, length of warp. You need to allow at least 0.5 of a metre minimum for tying on and waist. So we need at least 8.5 metres of the warp. The width of warp, we've said 18 inches. You need to allow at least 20% shrinkage. So just to make things round, I'm going to say 20 inches for the width of the warp. We've done the ends per inch. We know that that is actually 40, but that doesn't matter now. Number of warp threads. If we go down here to reed, we're doing a 10 dent reed. And we also know we are slaying it. Slaying divisions down the very bottom here, 1 per dent. To work out the number of warp threads, we take the width of the warp, 20 inches, by the slaying divisions and the reed. It's a 10-dent reed and we're going to go 20 inches. So we need to go 20 inches times 10 per inch. So that's easy, 20 times 10, which equals 200. So that means we need 200 threads, 8.5 metres long, because that's the length of the warp and that's the number of warp threads. Just to make things clear, I'm going to write that that is 8.5 metres for the length of the warp, and the number of warp threads is 200 threads. Selvage is not going to be an issue because we're doing plain weave. So we'll just write plain weave just for reference. We're not going to worry about amount of warp required or amount of weft required at the moment. The threading pattern. I'm going to be doing this on a 2-shaft loom. So the threading pattern will be 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. The threads picks per pattern, again, because it's a varied piece of weaving, it's not going to matter. We haven't done a sample, we're not going to do a sample. Pattern repeats in the warp. Again, not applicable, not applicable. Weaving details. Play. Lots of colour fun. So that concludes sorting out the information required to create the warp. Next video, we shall start making the warp. Bye.